Thank you all once again for tuning into this segment, which is focused on religion and identity. Firstly, I always want to say that religion serves to give a person meaning, it serves to give a person purpose. Religion transcends human understanding, it transcends human dictation of what a situation should be. Religion serves to unify, but religion can also serve to marginalize, as I will give a specific example of that. For example, in South Africa, my family and I were Christians. We came to South Africa and were part of a church congregation. We got to South Africa shortly after apartheid had ended. And apartheid was the time where blacks and non-white people were marginalized because of the color of their skin. However, the church was a place where people were very accepting of other beliefs, other races, other ethnic backgrounds. It was a platform that believed that God was an all-inclusive God. This Christian God accepted everyone, whether you were black, whether you were white, whether you were colored, etc., you were accepted. So people tended to gravitate towards this religious belief, Christianity, because they saw this as a platform for a unified South Africa. They thought that if a higher power can transcend that of human understanding, then you can stand on that platform and say, God doesn't see us as separate, so why should we be separate? And very often when we got to South Africa, we were all forced to go to black schools, my family and my siblings. We all went to black schools at the onset. However, after Nelson Mandela came into power in 94, we were able to integrate into white schools. But most of the people in white schools were already my friends because we shared the same religion, we shared the same belief as well. So in a sense, religion, Christianity, transcended the racial boundaries that were put into place by the Dutch South Africans, white South Africans. However, that same basis of racial transcendence that religion brought was the basis for also marginalization. Because, as I said before in my previous segment on language, the Afrikaners believed in the curse of Ham, that everybody that came from the lineage of Ham, all non-whites, were cursed. And they justified this as a fundamental principle of the Bible. And so this is the way they presented their case to the general public, that you cannot argue with God. You cannot argue that the Bible states that we as white people are the superior race. Whereas people used religion as a platform to transcend racial boundaries, other people used it as a means to marginalize certain populations of people. In today's day, we see certain conflicts with Islam, with Judaism, and we see a similar argument going on. However, tolerance is built when we know essentially what the true nature of the teachings are. There is nowhere in the Islam religion that justifies murdering somebody else, despite what you may hear, despite what the fundamentalists may say. In Christianity, a lot of the massacres committed in the name of colonialism were committed because people came and brought religion and they said that these activities of brutality were God ordained. However, if you look at the Bible, it is a religion of love. The Christianity is a religion of love. So in order for us to be tolerant people, we need to understand the contexts in which certain passages were written. We need to understand the context in which certain religious beliefs were practiced as well. So, in my life, I'm a Christian. I believe in love. I believe in unconditional acceptance, just like Christ did for all of us. In that same way, religion in the time of apartheid served to unify people because of the belief that God was an all-inclusive God, but it also served to marginalize the non-whites, because the platform of the apartheid people was that we as a non-white people were cursed, and as a result didn't were not equal to the white man. So in my life, religion has shaped my identity because I've seen how powerful it can be, and on the other end, how detrimental it can be when taken out of context as well. Well, thank you for listening to this short segment on religion. I just want to talk a little bit about how family shapes one's identity. And here I have very practical examples of instances where family has shaped my identity and my belief system. At the onset, you look at the continent of Africa and you see that the resources are shortages in resources. And you ask yourself the question, why in the world do people insist on having children when they cannot support them? Is it because of a lack of education? Is it because of a lack of contraceptives available? Right? So the answer to that is it also has a cultural platform. In Africa, in my culture, it is believed that in addition to money, in addition to resources, a man's wealth is defined by the number of children he has. So as a result, it is justifiable for a man to say that I am not going to have children because I won't have resources to provide for that child. However selfish that may seem, that is the religious belief that people of my culture have, that the wealth of a man is his children, because they have a legacy. They're going to be able to leave something to the next generation and carry on their line in order for prosperity to come to the family over many, many generations. When somebody gets married, you have to pay what is called a bride price, where you pay your future wife's family for her hand in marriage. Taking in another context, you may say, isn't that a little sexist? Why are you purchasing this person? But in our belief, in our family, it is not a belief that you're purchasing somebody. It is believed that the woman is the backbone of the family. The woman will provide shelter, take care of the kids, make sure the home is stable. So the loss of a woman in a family is such a big deal. And the family has to be compensated as a result. It is a form of respect, it's a form of love to that family for releasing their daughter's hand in marriage. Often there's such a big fight between cultural identity in Africa, right, and in the West. Whereas you might see somebody conforming to the ideals of the West, you might see somebody living a life in the Western context, you'll see this huge dilemma. Because on one end, they may be practicing religion, and on the other hand, they're practicing ancestral worship. They're killing chickens as a form of sacrifice to their ancestors, etc. So there's continually a huge dilemma. I come from a family where my grandparents were polygamous. My grandfather had three wives, and on my mom's side, and my grandfather had three wives on my dad's side. Luckily, I mean, that cycle has been broken with my parents because we believe in one man and one woman as ordained under God. But back in that context, while it might not be acceptable here, it's acceptable in that culture. So people grow up with certain cultural realities that are passed down from family to family that are important and are maintained as well. And in order for us to be tolerant people, we need to approach another culture with a perspective of understanding rather than knowing, but trying to understand where they are coming from with their certain beliefs. So in that sense, it's a sad reality today that the media, social media, either it's TV or the computer, the internet, is infiltrating many cultures in Africa where these truths, these beliefs are being lost. Many of the kids growing up don't speak their native tongue, myself included, which is a sad reality because there's a cultural identity that is being lost and is being conformed more to what they see on TV. It's been directed more towards what is perceived as valuable or will be valuable for you in the future. So family serves as a way to pass down truths, cultural truths, cultural identity. But however, the sad reality is that today these cultural realities are being lost due to media, due to a reluctance of the younger generations to accept those practices because they see them in this context of life as a little primitive as well. So that's how family has shaped me. I believe in having kids, a lot of children. I believe in paying for a bride price. When I get married, I'm actually engaged and I'm getting married to an African American girl. However, I will be paying bride price to her dad for the release of her hand to me. So I see it as a blessing. I see it as a gift of love for them. So whereas in another context, it might be taken as seeing as me purchasing somebody, but it's not seen as that. It's rather seen as a gift of love, a gift of gratitude for them releasing their daughter's hand to me. So that is my section on family and identity, and I'm very much shaped by the legacy of my family. I've been very much brought up in the legacy of my family. Even though I live in the West, I work in the West, everything I've known for the majority of my life has been in the Western world. I still hold true to those practices as passed down by my family because it stresses the importance of remembering where you came from and not neglecting the roots and the richness of your culture and diversity. I also want to say that back in the days of the colonialists, back in the days of slavery, the civil rights, a huge movement called the negative movement of literature arose that emphasized the beauty of the black skin, that emphasized the beauty of black hair, emphasized the beauty of the black person, the culture, that you have a lot to contribute to society because of your rich diversity, because of your rich experiences. And so family serves to bring out the richness of where you're from. And so cultural identity is shaped a lot by what you're able to pass down to the next generation through family. Well, thank you very much for that segment on family and identity. Thanks.